Is it a great time to be alive in the villages today? Is it a great time to live in the greatest nation man has ever known, the United States of America? Aren't you glad that Kamala Harris is not president of the United States? It's great to be home in Florida. We were in D.C. this week. God help us all. But I got to tell you, about 18 months ago now, the time has been moving pretty fast. All of us in this room and all across this country, we were fighting hard, together, united, in purpose, in spirit, in deed. We made sure people got registered to vote. We got them to the polls. They cast their ballots. And we made sure that Florida went red and the United States of America followed our lead. During the presidential campaign, the president and I would talk about how we felt the polls were going. And as we started getting into, mid-October, late October, I said to him, I said, sir, I think you're going to sweep the battleground states. And he would be like, really? And I would say, I don't want to talk about it publicly because I don't want to jinx it. But no matter where you were in America, one thing was clear. The American people were fed up. They were fed up. They were done. We were tired of the reckless policies of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We were sick to death of the insanity of Nancy Pelosi. Randy, they still don't like Nancy Pelosi, Randy. They don't like her. But more often than that, what the American people simply wanted was common sense. They wanted common sense to reign. They wanted conservative policy to reign. And that fight was nowhere was it greater than here in Florida, because here in Florida, we know what common sense conservative policy means to a state. And so election night was a great night because he swept the battleground states. He won the popular vote because the American people spoke loud and clear. They wanted to make America great again. And that work started on day one. On day one, President Trump ordered the Department of Homeland Security to close our borders, seal them up, and not let any more illegal aliens into the United States of America. And from that day forward, border crossings at our southern border have gone to zero. Proving once and for all that this wasn't about Washington not being able to get something done. This was about having a president of the United States that puts the American people first and puts America first. And then he started the work of having the Department of Homeland Security, and yes, let's call them exactly what they are, our ICE agents who were red-blooded Americans, who are patriots to this country, who deserve the respect of everybody in this country. Let's be very clear about something. The radical, enraged, crazy, stupid Democrat Party, they do not want your borders secure. They want them wide open. They do not want common sense to reign. They want to vilify the men and women who work hard to secure this nation. But President Donald J. Trump would have none of it. We made sure those borders were secured, and we're sending those criminal, illegal aliens home. And then on Capitol Hill, we got to work. The president was clear throughout the entire campaign that we were going to make sure that the American people were able to keep their money in their pockets, because your money is better spent when you do it than if you give it to some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. And with my colleagues on Capitol Hill, Republicans, and notice what I'm about to say, Republicans, we fought to make sure that there were no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and the largest tax cut on Social Security. No tax on Social Security. So let's be clear, when you go to the polls this November, you make sure the Democrats know loud and clear that you never fought for us. You never stood for us. You never protected this nation. You don't stand for our Constitution, and you do not deserve to have any power in Washington or anywhere else in America. You got Hakeem Jeffries coming down here trying to lecture our governor and our members of the legislature. He's talking about how we're gonna F around and find out. Us in Florida. What a fool. There's a reason why he's the minority leader in Washington, D.C., and after this November, when you go to the polls, he will remain the minority leader in Washington, D.C. Because the only thing that the Democrats want to do is impeach Donald Trump. The only thing they want to do is impeach. We got another crazy one. Impeach Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is doing a great job as the Secretary of... And I do like how the president just said, we're enough with the games. It's the Secretary of War. Because if our adversaries and our enemies think that we are going to hold back on them, they will find out like the Iranians found out. That's F around and find out. Recruitment in the military armed forces is at record levels. And it's at record levels because young men and young women across America realize that President Trump has their back and that the culture will be about making sure they are prepared to defend this enemy against this nation against all enemies. Wilton talked about our farmers here in Florida. I will tell you, myself and Senator Moody, we know firsthand that this administration, the Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, they are fighting hard every day for Florida ag, because ag in Florida is critical to the national security of the United States. And that's what this president is about, fighting for the security of these United States. And then we got to this craziness. You had our ICE agents doing their job that you, the American people, asked them to do. You asked them to do that job. You asked them to do that job because you made Donald Trump the 47th president of the United States. And then these Democrats, they have the temerity, they have the gall to dox our ICE agents trying to do their job, to threaten them in the cities and the streets of America, to agitate, to try to block them from doing their job. And then you have a moron like the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, and he's a moron, folks. Who did not do what our governor here in Florida, Ron DeSantis, has done. That fool Tim Walz would not do the right thing and instruct his law enforcement community to support our ICE agents. No, he told them to get out of the way and allow confusion and chaos into the streets of Minneapolis. The American people need to know the truth. The chaos you see on TV, that is brought by Democrats who do not want common sense in our country. They just want power to continue to destroy the greatest nation man has ever known. But we got a president that's not going to let that happen. I'm standing with him. You're standing with him. People need to know the truth. Here's the truth. The Democrats do not care about your well-being. When Joe Biden was in charge, there was more fentanyl. No, they are terrorist organizations, and we're going to dead in their tracks. The American people need to know the truth. You want to know why it's so expensive to build housing in our country? Because the Democrats believe in radical regulatory policy that makes it harder to build housing, makes it harder to resource and have access to raw materials so we can decrease the cost of building homes in America. That is why these things are more expensive. And Ashley Moody's fighting in the Senate every single day, but she has a colleague from New York named Chuck Schumer who is a clown and is not smart. And so that's why every 2 years we have to go back to the polls and we ask you, come on and show up. Come on and fight for America. Come on and live up to the ideal laid out by Benjamin Franklin that this is a republic if you can keep it. So I'm excited. I'm excited because when we cross the state and when we invite President Trump home to Florida, when we have him come home to Florida, I see the same resolve that I saw in October of 2024. I see the same fighting spirit of the red-blooded men and women of the United States of America. I see that when the other king from across the pond came over, I mean, listen, can we talk about this for a moment? The Democrats are all in the street, no kings, no kings, no kings. King Charles comes over and they're like, oh, this is amazing. Let's stand and applaud. So ridiculous. So ridiculous. But what I see is the fighting spirit of men and women who want to not just keep Florida free, they want to keep the United States free. They want the golden age of America to start today. And I'm just going to tell you, folks, that battle's in front of us. Our opponents, the Democrats, they are crazy. They're crazy. We got one of our colleagues from the Florida House who just passed new maps. Thank you, guys. The Florida House and the Florida Senate and Governor DeSantis. Thank you, guys. And one of these crazy Democrats had a bullhorn and they were shouting in the bullhorn on the floor, almost blew out her eardrum. I mean, crazy. The only way you defeat crazy is you stand up to it. You stand up to it. You call it out when you see it. You make sure you get to the polls. You fight for this country. You cast your ballot. You keep Florida red. And you tell the Democrats, sorry, no blue wave. You just got beat again. The Democrats still want to take the puberty from young kids in our country. Congresswoman Kat Cammack is sitting down front row. Hey, Kat. How you doing? We had a bill on the floor of the House that once and for all would ban the mutilation of kids. Would ban it once and for all. And you had something like 180 Democrats vote no. Because they're radical, folks. Just because they lost doesn't mean they changed. They have the same policies, the same ideas, the same thing that drove up prices, the same thing that led to an invasion of our country, the same thing that let fentanyl kill our people, the same thing that allowed for Rachel Moron and Jocelyn Nungari to be murdered in the streets of America. They support the same policies and they have not changed. So we have a responsibility this November to support President Trump and to make sure we turn out every red-blooded American, regardless of party, to the polls to fight for this country once again. And the one thing I will assure you, we go ahead and win this November. And by the way, I feel we're going to win this November. The wind will be at the back of the commander-in-chief to lead this nation into the future the same way you asked him to lead this country into the future in 2024. He needs you now more than ever. We cannot stop because of the insanity of the radical left. We have to push on. We have to preserve this great nation for another 250 years, and that battle starts this November. God bless you, the Villages. God bless you guys. It is always great to be in Florida's friendliest hometown. God bless you. God bless America. God bless Florida. We're going to keep it red and we're going to keep it free. God bless you.